Welcome back. Well, definitely recoup some of the losses from yesterday for the markets. Let's see whether this sustains. As of now, the market seems quite confident. Post-markets, we will have that NDA meeting, which is taking place at 4:30 p.m. So I think that will be important for the markets to watch out for in terms of cues come tomorrow. And maybe, the details would be very crucial. But nonetheless, to talk about the fundamentals, we have Deepak Jasani from HDFC Securities joining in to discuss the market fundamentals. Deepak, welcome to the show. You know, this rural theme seems to be playing out. We've discussed HUL, we've discussed a lot of the FMCG counters already. But rural financing, stocks such as, say, M&M Finance, would that be a stock that would interest you in such a market?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Rural financing, yes. So basically, the expectation everywhere is that the rural spend or rural focus will be back by the new government. So if that happens, then rural financing companies also may look attractive at some point. However, one will have to see the individual companies' asset breakup and the way the slippages have happened, the reasons for the slippages. But broadly, I think they can do well with a lag of about a quarter or so.
Deepak, broadly, just zooming out, what would be the portfolio shifts, the changes, the churn that you would recommend post the election verdict? What were you overweight on, underweight on earlier? And how is that changing now based on your expectation for the next few months and years?
So, given the fact that we are still to know from the new government about the policy thrust, of course, everybody believes now that the new government will continue with the reform measures. But I think we should wait for that to happen. In the meanwhile, I think we plan to go a little slower on the cyclicals, except banks. Banks is one, financials. Financials maybe are still comfortable. So we will continue to like financials, FMCG, pharma, and some material stocks. The rest of the stocks, we will wait for them to correct adequately or for their earning visibility to improve.
So when you say you go slow on cyclicals, you will stop adding, you would recommend booking profit. Could you elaborate a little bit more? And are there any stocks where you would suggest exiting? So for instance, one of the foreign brokerages today said that they would replace L&T with HCL Tech.
Yeah, so basically, I think capital goods as a sector or as a theme and PSU, they both have done extremely well over the last couple of quarters. So there, I think those two are the sectors or themes where one could take profits on good days in the market and probably shift towards the 3 or 4 sectors that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. All right. Well, Deepak, one of the stocks which stood out to me today was Glenmark. One of our colleagues, Hormuz, pointed out that it's in fact at a 9-year high in today's trade. The numbers weren't that great, but I think it's probably the debt which is probably abated a little bit. Would you look out for such ideas where, the fundamentals support the company, they have a good amount of exposure, they are a defensive stock? Your approach towards Glenmark and any other such ideas that you might have in mind?
Yeah, so what we believe is that in the near term, markets will be more stock specific. So you will have a lot of opportunities to invest in individual stocks. The broader markets, after this knee-jerk reaction, which we have seen over the last 2 days and which continues today, may subside probably by tomorrow or day after. And then we will go back to individual stock selections. So within the pharma pack, we have a buy call on Sun Pharma. So that is the top pick within that sector.
And in FMCG, which one would be your top pick and why? Because most of these stocks have gone up about 10% in 2 days. So at current levels, which one is attractive?
Right. So again, one will have to wait for a slight dip. So within the FMCG pack, I think we have a buy on United Spirits and Crompton Consumers.
Okay, buy on United Spirits as well as Crompton Consumer. The other space which I wanted to discuss was this infra/capex theme, which, some of the experts were a little cautious about, at least yesterday. considering that there was a lot of uncertainty with regards to what might happen in terms of a coalition government. What would your approach be towards infrastructure and capex? Would that still be a theme which would be top of mind?
Yeah, so both the themes we are sort of comfortable with. Maybe the valuations, we will wait for them to correct a bit. But I think the new government will continue with the thrust on both the spaces. Valuation-wise, I think some correction or some fall is required, and then probably we can relook at it. After till that time, we can probably continue to look at financials, FMCG, and pharma.
In FMCG, in the traditional staples, the HULs, Imami, Dabur, anything that you like, Deepak? Because there appears there's got to be rural spending. In fact, even the commentary from the companies during the Q4 numbers suggested that rural demand is picking up. Raw material pressures are abating, which should support margins, and valuations too are not expensive. They're trading in line with the 5-year averages. So in the staples pack, do you have a recommendation?
So we liked HUL and Godrej Consumer at slightly lower levels. Over the last 2-3 days, they have risen quite a bit. So again, we will have to sort of hold back, wait for correction so that we have decent upside from the entry levels.
So, how much of a correction should one wait for in HUL and GCPL?
I think around 6 to 9%.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any approach towards the PSU banking space? You know, that was really one of the key sectors which had really shone in the past 1 to 2 years. And there's been a cleanup in terms of governance issues as well as the NPA problem. Do you think that's likely to continue? Would you be a buyer at current levels for a couple of these PSU banks?
Yeah, within the banking pack, I think we like PSUs. But again, we'll have to look at the prices, the way they have run up. Broadly, I think the asset quality issues are behind us for the time being till we see fresh concerns being raised. Credit demand remains quite bullish. NIMs are also protected. So in that sense, I think, and valuation-wise, they are quite comfortably placed as compared to the private banks. And in terms of technology, in terms of service, I think the gap between the two is getting narrower day by day.
Deepak, thank you very much for joining in. By the way, on the markets, the big swings, the volatility continues. In a span of about 30 minutes, 150 points has been knocked off the Nifty. The Nifty had crossed 22,400. The high today was 22,445. So nearly 22,450. And now in 30 minutes, the Nifty's dropped below 22,300. So that's kind of, the kind of volatility that's, kicked in. And right now, it's profits being booked off, the FMCG, the staples, the Britannias, HULs. That's where we have seen a bit of a knock in the last 30 minutes or so. We'll keep tracking the markets for you, but we'll also get you more on the market. Stay tuned.